first want to say thank you to be invited to speak here. I see in front of me the ancestors, partially, that were shown on the tree. Not all of them, but some of them. So I feel very honored to speak to you. Speak to the ones who taught me and the ones that I've learned with. I've been 10 years Oberarzt in Bad Herrenalb, the Walter-Leschly Clinic, and I took that system to expand it and to have it grow in a different frame. And that's what I'm going to talk about now, what we're doing there. I now show you the overview of the methods that we combine at this clinic. The whole title of this presentation is Bonding and Attachment Therapy of Parents and Their Children in a Family. That means we treat whole families in a clinical setting. This is an overview of the 8 items that I'm going to touch. The development of the family ClinicWaldmünchen, here. Then systemic family therapy, attachment therapy, the children's therapy in the so-called, this is not called Kindertagesstätte, Kindertherapy, because therapy happens there. Then the children, we have a therapeutic community that includes adolescents and children. So what I've learned in Herrenalb, where we had therapeutic community, I've expanded through children in the therapeutic community and adolescents. Social competence training, adolescents in the therapeutic community, observations about behavior of children in the therapeutic community, plus adolescents in the therapeutic community, because we have them together in the large groups, and therapeutic community itself. Next page, please. The clinic in Waldmünchen was a psychosomatic clinic before, and it went down, and it was bought by the Heidelberg chain that is otherwise in Bad Kissingen in 2006. When I started there, the clinic looked poor, but I was confident that being bought by Heidelberg, that there is money behind it to make it look better very soon, and that did happen. Basically, I started and had in my pocket a working concept that I'd learned from these ancestors that we've seen at the tree. Some of these ancestors being Jeff and Julia Gordon, Michael Oppel, George Reinhart. These were my teachers, and I took what I've learned there, and that's what I had in my pocket. Otherwise, I was in the Böhmische Wald at the Czech border and had to build the whole thing. I started in January 2007, and our patient distribution now is 40 children, 32 parents, 18 adolescents, and 18 adult patients. So we have an overall of 108 patients that are all together in therapeutic community, out of which 40 are children and 32 their parents. The treatment concept, as I've already announced, has a therapeutic community, as I've learned from my Herrenalb rules, in the very sense that Connie has now just announced it as a living learning community. I mean, that is, I feel it to be in the tradition of that. Then we added bonding for the usual condition in which often we do have women and their children. We do treat families, and I do not want our clinic to be a mother-child, called be a mother-child, or develop to be a mother-child clinic. And we have father-child, but we have whole families and children. But often we have mother and children. The usual condition in which the mothers with their children come to the clinic is that the mothers are exhausted, depressed, and powerless, and the children are violent and powerful. The power that the children have has been given by these depressed mothers to the children. And that's what we start with. then the parents get a nurturing of their inner child through the bonding therapy. We apply the bonding to nurture the inner child of the parent, and already when the patients come to the clinic in the first round, they're confronted with the mother says, I come because of my little Fritz, and that's why I come to the treatment. And already in the pickup, in the large group, when they announce themselves, the therapist would say, and what is it with you? How do you feel as a woman? And they redefine from being a mother to being asked, well, what is with Elizabeth? Can we talk a little bit about Elizabeth? Is Elizabeth still here, or it's only about Fritz? And at that point, well, sometimes they can't respond to these questions, but we introduce the bonding work for nurturing and re-establishing of sense of self and self-love for the mother. So primarily, she's getting an individual treatment through bonding, as she would get in a psychosomatic clinic that would treat her as an adult. Systemic therapy is added. That means we have family sessions with the families that are in, but we also have family sessions with families where adolescents, for example, we treat the families that adolescents may be there without their parents. And so we have family sessions during the treatment of an adolescent where we call in the patients, for example, 2 or 3 systemic sessions. The new thing that I have added, and now the team is working with me successfully, is that to the bonding of the parent, we have added a parent-child attachment therapy, so that kind of proactively, what I've learned are the damages that are cured with bonding with the children and the mother in a stage where the whole problem begins to evolve is treated right in front of us. The children that we have are from an age of 3 to our patients are 3 upward. And so we have a parent-child attachment therapy that we do with mother and child. And then the usual, which is in clinics of this sort, is a therapeutical group therapy. I've heard a story that part of the reasons Walter Lechler had to leave this clinic, there was a conflict or so, and part of the reasons, I don't know, there may be multiple facets of why he was leaving then, but part of the reasons was he wanted to include to the therapeutic community the personnel, the kitchen, the administration, the service personnel. Walter wanted to do that in, I think, 88 or 87. Now, when I began at this clinic, I was ordered. Heiligenfeld, the keeper of the clinic, asked me to do that from the beginning. So the very thing where Walter Lechler had a conflict with his holder, where he wanted to include the service personnel to the clinic, I was told to do so. So that's an aspect of the Heiligenfeld, the keeper of the clinic. They had an interest that I kind of connect and include into the therapeutic community, the secretaries, the administrative personnel, and the kitchen and the house service. So this very thing I was asked to do and is still happening at our clinic. Meaning, for example, in the practical form that there is hospitations, you're asked to do hospitations in the other department at least once or twice a year. Like, so I go to the administrative people and spend a day with them and look with them into their computer, how the bookmaking or how they call in the patients, and vice versa, meaning the administrative person comes to the large group or therapeutic community and watches us dealing with relationship conflicts. There's an exchange between the departments, a circular model already built in the organization. There's this element of cooperation of all employees in the clinic, therapists, administration employees, kitchen and caretakers. It's really very practical. They have to do once a year or twice a year in a totally different department, like my Oberarzt colleague was shortly in the kitchen. And he came with one of these white kitchen hats, and he was saying, he was seeing how hard the work is there. Okay. The part family therapy. I am a Bonding Fellow, and I'm systemic therapist educated Stierlin Heidelberg School. And so I brought that together, and from my point of view, the treatment of mothers and children, where mothers and children are not treated together, doesn't make sense. Also a treatment where children and their mothers are treated separate and still used in child use psychiatry does not make sense. And I don't find myself super modern in systemically treating them. I think it's just a thing to do. Systemic therapy supervision, we had, in the beginning of the clinic, I asked good old Herrn Stierlin to come to Waldmünchen to give us supervision, and he was already in his 80s or so, and I picked him up in Nuremberg, and he was willing to support us to build up systemic therapy in Waldmünchen, and so Herrn Stierlin was for a year or two doing supervision in Waldmünchen, and now we have a local supervisor that comes from Regensburg and does systemic supervision for the colleagues. Meanwhile, we have, I would say, between 5 and 10 educated systemic therapists at the clinic after the German Systemic Association. We are using family constellations when necessary, and this is decided in our conferences. We do family therapy sessions, always systemic sessions with adolescents and their parents that we call in. For example, when we take in patients, when we take in adolescents, we have usually a family talk as they are coming, and one in the middle and at least one when they're going. So it's 3 talks with the family for sure. Inclusion of absent partner spouses means that we have couple talks or family talks with partners that we invite to come to the clinic. Next page. Yeah. After the attachment therapy that we do. We do bonding, and there are at the clinic now several completed bonding therapists, and I would say an overall of 5 to 6 that are in education to be bonding therapists. One of the colleagues is today here in this circle. The casual roots of emotional and physical closeness is lived in, from the beginning we put a Wohnzimmer, a living room into the clinic that is made very comfortable and attractive with leather couch and sofa and beautiful colors. And that's where, and it's working. The people come to this room to do the closeness and in Wohnzimmer. So that's happening usually in the evening, and it's in the center of the clinic. And yeah, therapeutic community. Therapeutic community. The practical. Basically, we recommend, and I recommend, and it's an atmosphere that I've learned at Herrenalb. It's closeness, and people are invited, and it happens. And we do have twice a week. We have large group, Tuesdays and Thursdays, where in their therapeutic community, and that was new for myself too, consists of adults, children, and adolescents. So we have included in the therapeutic community the children and the adolescents. Practically it means when we have a large group on Tuesdays or Thursdays The children can come only in the second half because they cannot stay so long. They cannot stay when we have conflict resolution or when we have relationship clearing or so. They only stay part of the time, but otherwise they participate in the exchange, and we have the same perceptions that Connie was just talking about, that the participation in the therapeutic community, also for the children and mothers, has incredible healing effects. And the children stand up, the parents naturally learn to stand up in the large group and speak for themselves, and the children do that too. And the emotional competence that the children show there in this frame is sometimes surprising, or not so surprising. The elements that we use for the child-parent attachment therapy are coming partially from Karl-Heinz Brisch, who is I would say the German binding researcher who is in Munich, at the Munich University, and does these big yearly conferences on binding, where you can meet the Grossmanns. I'm very touched. I'm very touched now as I regularly attend these conferences on binding theory, and I am in contact with this world at the same time as I'm a bonding fellow, and I'm touched that you are now here. I mean, I'm really touched that these worlds begin now to cooperate and that they are closer to each other. And we also apply elements of binding trainings by Janssen. That's the more behavioral oriented training, and it's my therapist in the child therapy who say that this is very well working for them. Then attachment therapy of parents and the children. Next page. The children's therapy. The children that we take are of the groups 3 to 6, 6 to 10, 10 to 13. The name is the butterfly group, and the large ones are the kangaroos. And what is the middle? Do you know the name of the middle? The butterflies and the kangaroos. And then this is adolescent group. And about the number, 40 children, 18 adolescents, and 32 parents. Grashüpfer. The middle group, this is the Grashüpfer. Okay. In the Kindertherapiestätte, they are working with a prepared environment according to Montessori. That means that children get material like earth and water and pens and so, in which they can put their creativity into. Rather than education and being told what to do, they're getting these creative resources in which they can then creatively express themselves. At the same time as there's a space for creative expression, we also have a behavioral part, so that the children have, and there's on the walls, there's lists of the goals that they're working on, and they have weekly and daily goals that they're checked with. And they have stars, they have a star system, it's a behavioral system, where they have 5 stars, and when they are successful, and goals are, for example, asking mother when I want something from her, rather than beating mother when I want something from her. Or being able to look mother into the eyes, or be able to do a friendly thing with another child. It's all written down, and when they're successful, then they can keep their stars rather than they're taken away. In German, this whole discussion, Beziehung und Erziehung, Also the whole discussion between the children learn to relate to each other there, to themselves, and education, yes, education is a theme too that we're dealing with, but the primary thing is the relationship. The conferences that are talked about the children, take place in so-called sub-teams. Sub-team is where the therapist meets with the Oberarzt, the leading doctor, the therapist with someone from the children's place, and with the nurse. And they talk through, in the conferences, the stage of things. Criteria of what is improved is the impulse control of the child, the coping with attachment modes, and the expression of emotions between child and mother. What we observe is that the work on the inner child of the mother is the work that is the base for the improvement of the child. The child can improve as much as the mother is re-nurtured and getting better. And this is from my observation, follows almost physical law. The child's behavior, so to treat the child separate from the mother makes no sense at all. And I say even sense, as much as the mother is able to take and nurture herself, it makes herself a better mother. This makes things in a way easy. It makes it easy because her own ego therapy and her own getting better with bonding is the base for having it get better with the child. And then we can follow up with the parent-child treatment and see that they're getting better together. And how they're getting better together, I will show video then for you to see how that works. Next page. The children in the therapeutic community. What are my observations? I came from work with adults in therapeutic. What were my observations in children in the therapeutic community? The parents are asked to learn in front of a large group about themselves, and that is what is strengthening them. As Connie put up the question, what is the healing agent that makes therapeutic community so successful, if I understand right? That question is still unanswered. And I have some intuitive answers, but it's not researched yet. No? One thing would be, it's natural to be connected. It is natural to be connected. It's it's a natural stage of human beings. That is, like they are also natural to be religious. You don't have to make them religious. It's a part of their natural equipment. Oh, okay. Parents speak for themselves. Children speak for themselves. Don't go. Children speak for themselves. Yeah? The children, as the parents, it is healthy. It creates healthy to show yourself and how you really are in front of other people. Or Walter Lechner said this in other words, we only become ourselves in being who we are with others. We have to learn to be who we are with others. Some people are themselves without others, and some people are with others without being themselves. So it's good to learn to be yourself with others in every stage in a transforming way. Okay. Conflict resolution we do with Rosenberg technique, Marshall Rosenberg, nonviolent communication. So we do the steps, I don't know, for those who know the conflict resolution, we do that in the therapeutic community. And we do it adults with adults, we do it adults with children, and we do it children with children. We do with 5-year-old children conflict resolution following Marshall Rosenberg nonviolent communication patterns, and it works fabulously. So you have 2 5-year-olds and they do a conflict resolution with Rosenberg technique, step 1 to 5, and in the end they're hugging each other because their conflict is resolved. It works. Yeah, emotional competence of children, I don't think I have to say that. They're naturally more at home in emotion, and they understand exactly what is emotionally going on. They know when they're unfair. They know when they've not treated another kid well. The adults sometimes are insecure whether they would really know that, but they do know it. And I remember I had my first Oberarzt who I was very happy with and who then left me because her husband didn't want to stay in Waldmünchen. And she was brilliant in her warmth consisted of understanding the power games of children. And she was very sober on the power games of children. And that made her very loving and very appropriate in the work with children, because naturally these kids that are seen and asthma powerless, they have to acquire their ways. So for example, when they address something and told something, they just act as if they haven't heard it. They run away. Things like that she could deal with very well. When a patient comes to the clinic and finds out that there are all these children and so, they often express a fear that they don't get what they want, as there are all these children. These children will really eat away the attention that they want for themselves, and it's also in the eating room, it's so loud, so that they cannot really relax and have this core therapy that they want. It's so loud with the children and adolescents, but often they find by the intergenerational exchange that, for example, improvement of and more aliveness of inner child and connecting to an outer child is very vitalizing and healthy and improving their condition. Not all do that. Not all come to this conclusion. This means other children as enrichment plus, in a way also, I feel we are, this parent-child binding therapy for myself derives from the insights of bonding. In bonding we see the importance of the nurturing of the inner child, and here we proactively do it to the next generation. So that what we've seen and learned with bonding, we can now do with the kids. Next page. Interpersonal skills, yeah, I would call that probably different. Someone has translated this for me. Social skills. Also we have, as there's also a part where the kids have to learn how to deal with the educational systems, learning to learn. Then the I is not here, it's just social competence training. Social competence training means, for example, the competence to how do you get a driving license? How do you apply for a job? Also, how do you write a job application? Because often in their families, these social skills are not given to them. They come from families that do not equip them with the social knowledge how you go for a job, or how you get a driving license, or how do you have your car registered. Basic social skills, the family is often not complete and they do not have these social skills. Then the adolescents have outdoor experiences, Niederseilpark, that means like they learn to climb, and they learn in these physical experiences that they do in the woods, they learn first to handle their bodies, and they learn to handle their bodies in nature, and they also learn to cooperate in them. For example, they have obstacles they have to climb on, and these obstacles they can only handle when they cooperate. It's that individual cannot do it alone, so to climb that or to hold the balance is only possible when they work together. Horse riding is part of the clinic program. Adolescents in the therapeutic community. Okay, the children come, let's say, for half hour or 45 minutes into the large group, and they often have to be stimulated to participate, but they are participating and they are saying their things, also conflict with another child and so on. The adolescents, this is an interesting phenomenon. The adolescents usually sit there back in the corner, as far as possible away from us therapists in front. Yeah? Well, like adolescents would usually do in the family also, as far away from the parents and so on. But interesting, I did not know how adolescents would react to bonding. And how would adolescents react to marathons? We take them also on marathons. And they're usually very happy. They do not have so many places that invite them to scream, that invite them to express their emotions, and they are often, and also in the beginning I had something like, they're also full with this media world. They're all Facebook, and it's nowadays, in the groups that I have, it's not that one or the other is in Facebook, they're 100% in Facebook. And if you're not in Facebook, you're out. Like in a German gymnasium or so, 100% are Facebook. And if you're not, the others ask you, well, what's wrong with you because you're not in Facebook? So I thought the Facebook generation is lost for bonding. So they are full of virtual reality and I cannot reach them with emotions. But I found the opposite. I found, yes, they're Facebook, and on the marathons, they're fabulously expressing emotions, they're participating, they understand everything, and they connect, and they want to come back. So they are picking up the gift that we have to give. And they're very happy about it. Peer group, yeah, sure. So they form within the large therapeutic community. One has to respect peer group dynamics, where they close up to each other, but they often have an impressive solidarity and friendship, and sometimes a little too much, to helping. And so, but basically, peer group dynamics can be part of therapeutic community and fit in well. Yeah, so for example, when in the large group, 108 people, they sit there in the back of the corner, try to be as far away from the boss as possible, and then I ask them, hey, and now you come in front, and you sit here right in front of me. I say, now the person sit in front, makes place, and the adolescents come out to sit in front. They come and they pick up contact. They are happy. They're happy to be, sometimes, not always, yeah? They're happy to be closer, they pick up the contact, and they are enjoying to be seen. They're enjoying to be seen, and they show themselves. I found that again and again, to ask them just to come from the back to the front, to be closer in contact. They are willing to do that. And they are also seeing, they're seeing maybe better than previous generations what is nurturing. And they have a good sense of what is nurturing for them, so they can and do use the bonding principles that we offer, whether it's therapeutic community, whether it's marathon, or whether it's bonding therapy. Next page. Therapeutic community. Course. It's an interesting translation. What does that mean? I have to look it up. In the German version. Course. There's course. Ablauf. How that works. Okay, twice a week. We have therapeutic community, and this is the intake on Thursday. The intake, that means we welcome patients in a circle. I remember in Herrenalb we welcomed the single patient in front of the therapeutic group. Now we welcome them in a circle. So there is, in the large community, is an inner circle where the welcoming patients sit together and are interviewed usually by two therapists. So on Thursday, and that's what the large group starts with, the intake of the new ones that are inquired by two therapists. And the regular part of the inquiry is that we, already in this first moment, deconstruct the concept, I'm here because of my child. So that I'm already, in this first dialogue it starts and we address, okay, here's Fritz, and there's Elizabeth, and now let's talk about Elizabeth. Yeah? Why would Elizabeth be here, and what can Elizabeth gain from the therapeutic community, and what can she gain from her being present here? And we separate the welcoming to the children from the parents. After that, when the welcoming circle is over, make a short pause, and then we make a large group, 108 people, conflicts, projections, all this, what we've learned, what works in therapy, are the projections, the work with projections in a large group. And for conflict resolution, we use Rosenberg, and otherwise we make group hugs and hugs in the large group. People can ask for hugs or for group hugs in the large group, and that happens. Children can ask for things from their parents. Children can also confront their parents. Yeah, and adolescents also. As a conflict resolution according to nonviolent conflict. I found this works very well. The Rosenberg principles really add to where there otherwise would be just enemy or the Feindseligkeit, also seeing the other as an enemy. The clarifications often have as a result that the very ones that are hooked into each other via their projection through the clearing, they are exactly the ones who are meant to become open to each other. Let's say at least that. For example, the relationship clearing of Rosenberg always ends that I ask them, and now you do a physical expression what expresses the degree of closeness you've reached with each other. And it can be a handshake, can be just a hand touch, or it can be just a wave, or it can be a hug, but they can measure in between what the degree of closeness is that they feel they've achieved through the Rosenberg clarification. And they do that in front of the group. Behavior of children, behavior of adolescents, yeah, differences. There is, yeah, I mean, as I've learned in Herrenalb, also therapeutic community with adults, there is schon sizable differences also with the adolescents and the kids. And what would I say? It basically, there's a higher challenge to the group. For example, a mother stands up and says, I have this difficult child, who can help me with the child? Yeah, and around sits all the other mothers who have also all difficult children and say, well, who can help me, who can help me? But then therapeutic community often does develop answers so that in one case the mother is helped, and shortly I had a case where the mother was not helped. And the mother was not helped because the mother was so rejecting and so arrogant, and so that the community says, no, we're not available. We are not going to take care of the child. And then she had to leave as the people who work with therapeutic community know it can happen. So it becomes more colorful, sometimes more challenging, and future-oriented. More future-oriented with the children and the adolescents. We have the next generation sitting there. Okay, then the videos. I also want to add something. I want to say something to Connie. The scientific evaluation of what we're doing. What we're doing is just beautiful. I know it. Yeah? But the scientific evaluation and the survival in a clinic is an ongoing challenge. It's an ongoing challenge. This is not the challenge. This is material therapeutically work. But to have this go on and live on is an ongoing piece of work. There is also gratitude to Heiligenfeld and concretely also to Joachim Galuska that we can do this kind of work, that there is a frame in which we can do this kind of work. Yeah? That is basically what I have to, the challenge.
Das ist alles rausgelaufen. Ihr schaut euch gegenseitig an. Alles rausgelaufen. Zeit ist nicht so.
Julia, und schau mich nach. Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut. Genau, Julia, und lauter werden. Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut. Schau mich an, Julia, und lauter werden. Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut. Genau, und leise lauter werden. Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut. Und lauter werden, schau mich an. Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut. Und nochmal, ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut. Ja, und nochmal kurz. Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut. Ja, super, und bleib dabei. Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut. Ja. Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut! Ja! Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut! Ja! Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut! Ja! Ich bin Julia, das ist meine Wut!
Ja! Then the second video.
Genau, der Papa kommt auch noch dazu.
We have the third one. In the second one, it's interesting how he also longs to have the father join, right? When he's with the mother, also to have the father join. And now the third video is a nurturing sequence, and the boy, first in the beginning, very turned away from the mother, no eye contact, no nothing, very afraid. And interesting is, if you watch over the sequence his legs, the legs express his fears and his rejection and not wanting the closeness. And this whole video is very subtle and consists basically out of an increasing eye contact. First totally looking away, you see with the legs his fear of closeness. There, he tries to look a little, and the legs shake a little bit more as he gets closer with the eye contact. The legs are shaking. See this? As he looks the mother into her face, the fear and the movement of the legs. And then increasingly this feels safe, the eye contact, and so it's a different phase now of this. The legs are now silent, and he's in a constant eye contact with the mother. The mother then says sentences like, "You're my child, and I love you, and you are beautiful." And the child feels increasingly safe and warm and can take the nurturing from the mother. The shaking of the legs is now stopped. It's the final stage when the pretty good eye contact. Du bist mein Kind, you are my child, and I love you, mother says. That's it. Thank you. Questions? Yes?
Do teenagers actually bond on match with each other?
Do the teenagers, I repeat the question, do the teenagers bond on the mats? Answer yes.
With each other?
Yes, those who are willing to do that. No. No, as we have a general atmosphere where the bonding atmosphere and sexuality is separated. We do not have major problems with adolescents acting out sexuality. Do not. Much less than I would have expected.
They did in the casual institute at one time.
Well,
Long time ago.
yeah, but it's different now, as in the clinic is a general atmosphere to discern between the bonding principle and the closeness and sexuality. It's so that they can take advantage of the closeness offered without necessarily drifting into sexual acting out. It is much less than I would have expected myself. As it is the general atmosphere, and they're getting enough, they're getting so much as they get the invitation to express emotions. Who allows them to shout their anger? They have to become punks to act out their anger, and here they can, on the mattress, are invited and get the affirmation, we love you with your anger, and you're beautiful, and so on. They love that. They go for it, often, mostly. Yes?
How long do the families stay, and do you judge whether there's been sufficient?
They generally stay 8 to 10 weeks, so it was not the 6 weeks that was set here. They can also stay between 6 and 10 weeks, and the repetitions of the stay can happen. Too many repetitions I don't want.
Younger children can change faster than the adolescents?
No, I don't find that. The question was whether the younger children can change faster than the adolescents. No, I could not say that there is from my perception, that children are changing faster. The changes of children often have to do, I found the following. I found that the children are violent because the mothers are not present in the inner child. They beat the mother, and they verbally, because mother can't be reached. Mother is not there. Mother doesn't feel anything. So child beats mother, or child shouts at mother. As mother, through bonding, feels more, becomes more sensitive, child can reach mother, child becomes less violent, because child can reach mother. And that's the main thing about this whole education discussion is the bonding principle, that the child can relate and reach the mother, makes for that everything can calm down. And yes, we are working with that. We recommend that the mothers go again into an educational place, because when they come in the pathological relationship is that mothers don't educate anymore. They are depressive, and the child has all the power. So on one hand, it's the improvement of the relating and the attachment, and that the child reaches the mother. But second, also, we ask the mother to step into an adult place, the redistribution of places between mother and child, where mother is again in an adult position and child is in a child position. So a change of position. I've personally developed a five-step concept of how to rebuild the relationship between the parent and the child, so that everyone comes back to their place where they belong to. And that is working over the bonding, the re-nurturing of the inner child of the mother. And then she goes again into an adult position, has a nurtured inner child, and the child can reach the mother, plus mother is still in the adult position and can educate.
Often in confirmation, if a person should say, for instance, you don't see me, I'm lovable, and who does I am, to the group, they imagine that they're screaming at the parents. Now the parents are there.
Yeah.
However, what's the difference? I did it once in a group, it was very powerful, but I'd like to hear your
Yes.
what it does mean for the parents.
Yes. Is your question, for example, when the child directly screams at the mother, you don't see me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We avoid that. We avoid that. We work with the emotions of the mother, and we work with the emotions of the child, but direct accusation of, you don't give me this and that, we avoid it, because we watch for the re-nurturing, so that they can cooperate. In the beginning stage of pathology, they would accuse each other in the way that you're saying, and that's what they do in everyday behavior. The child beats the mother in 80%, either verbally or physically, because no inner child cannot reach the mother. So also, I more and more understand that these violent children are not violent. They do the only means that stays to a mother that you can't reach. So they're beating them. and then rather than escalate it into the accusation, you don't see me, and so, the difficulty is in these 5 stages of change. I call the position of the child when it's in the big parentification. It sits on the big seat. Yeah? The mother is powerless. The child sits on the big seat. So we're also changing our treatments, the parentification that otherwise have to be treated in the psychoanalysis 40 years later. We change the parentification of the wrong position of the child. The challenging phase in that reconfiguration is when the child is made powerless before it's been put into a place of power by the mother, when that power is taken away because mother now gives the attention to her inner child rather than nurturing this Fritz out there that is already blown up by what she doesn't have. She's giving him what she doesn't have. So she begins to turn to herself, nurture herself, and the child goes berserk. The child outside, as it feels all this, that the deprived mother was feeding herself to the child rather than having something to feed, she's now giving attention to herself. In that phase, the child goes berserk. The child feels and fights against us also, against the children therapist, against the therapist, often, and because they lose their chair. They lose this chair of neurotic relating. And there we've learned to become better, because this is a phase that happens in every process. When the parentification is stopped and the child is taken off of the chair, and the mother begins to first nurture herself, her inner child, then also begins to educate this mother that before has given every cookie and every thing that the child ordered to the child. Now the child experiences a mother that first of all takes care of herself rather than her Fritz, and then begins to educate. Yeah? And these were the challenges and are the challenges, but we've learned to